Well, thank you, Bob, very much. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. Trust you and all of your families, those closest to all of you, are doing well and staying healthy in the midst of the challenging times that we continue to find ourselves in. But hey, I believe adversity is opportunity, because without adversity, we couldn't overcome. Nobody on the call thankful for the challenges that we've all faced. I know you all have done incredible work in the past year and a half or two, or however long it's been since COVID. Yeah, year and a half, give or take. It's been a very challenging time for. I know your job is tough as it is. COVID added a whole nother level to that challenge, a whole nother form of adversity to deal with, in addition to the challenging nature of your job as it is. But I'm grateful that you all have found a way to thrive in the midst of it. And I know it's tough, and life's tough, business is tough, your jobs are all tough. Obviously, I'm not in the medical device space, but really, I think that that mission statement: alleviate pain, restore health, and extend life. I mean, the ability just think of, that impact you're making on people is huge. And you obviously know that, but you saw in that video there, I faced a couple of big ones in regarding the two tragic plane accidents that I was involved in. And after the second one that almost took my life, I was in a lot of pain. I had to regain a lot of my health. I couldn't walk, I couldn't talk, I couldn't really do anything. And fortunately, by the grace of God, I came out of that coma. But yeah, I had a lot of people in my life who helped me the way you all are helping people just like me. I know we didn't work together directly, who go through challenges and adversity, helping them overcome, because without the work that you all do every day, people wouldn't be able to overcome and get back to living the life that they want to, living their life on their terms. So thank you for that. But for me, to overcome the challenges that I face, and I can't say that the way I overcame my challenges applies to anybody else's challenges, because we're all different. But I think the things that help me overcome the challenges that I face will help most of us overcome the challenges that we're facing as well. Maybe not everything I talk about today will be worth it to you, but hopefully at least one thing I say today. That's my goal, to have one thing I say today help each of you as you continue to face challenges of your own, as you continue to navigate this challenging environment of your challenging business. So Coach Beeline, as you saw in that video, he came to visit me in the hospital on June 15th, 2000, or I committed to play in Michigan June 15th, 2011. The second plane crash happened 9 days later. I was almost killed. I was in a coma for 2 months. He came to see me in the hospital when I was in a wheelchair. I couldn't walk. I had injured my legs severely, but they were healed by this time. I couldn't walk because my brain couldn't tell my legs but one in front of the other. I had a really bad traumatic brain injury, really bad. Traumatic brain injuries, I was told, are measured on a scale of 1 to 7, 7 being the worst. Levels 1, 2, and 3, I was told, have a pretty good chance of regaining independence, regaining your ability to live life on your terms. But levels 4, 5, 6, and 7 have decreasingly smaller chances. The doctors who took care of me told me that my traumatic brain injury was the worst level 7 traumatic brain injury they'd ever seen that came out of a coma. So I'm very blessed to be alive, right? Statistically speaking, I shouldn't have survived. My goal was not just to survive. I don't want to just get by, just make a decent recovery. Just make a solid recovery. That would have been great, but I wanted to thrive in the midst of the challenges that I faced. And I think I can't speak for everybody on the call today, but it sounds like, given the fact that you're in this tough business, this competitive business with all of these challenges, you all are doing your best to thrive in the midst of the adversity that you face as well. So to me, I realized it was going to take some hard work, some diligence, some consistent action to overcome the challenges that I faced and get to Michigan. But I realized more than anything, it was going to take some grit to overcome. It was going to take some grit to thrive in the midst of that. And it's been said that grit's working hard for the long-term vision, being consistent in our action, not just intense for the short term, but consistent over the long term. That's true. I like that definition a lot, but I think grit could be defined more specifically. And on my road to recovery, I felt that I needed a little more of a specific way to define grit, that I could keep score against myself on a daily basis to make sure that I was giving myself the best chance to overcome the challenges that I face and to give myself the best chance to thrive in the midst of them. So grit to me is 4 letters. There's 4 key components to it. But I believe grit's driven by purpose. Whatever that is for you, whether it's your faith, your family, your friends, your teammates, the organization, as I said, for you all, alleviate pain, restore health, and extend life. It sounds like that's your greater purpose. I can't speak for all of you. I'm not part of your team. I guess I am for tonight, but having that greater purpose for me, the greater purpose of honoring my family in heaven, that drove me to do what it took to thrive in the midst of it. And my goal wasn't just to get through it. A lot of the people say, just keep working, get through it. Time will pass, you'll get to the other side. My goal wasn't to get through it. My goal was to grow through it. My goal wasn't to get through it. My goal was to grow through it. And I think any challenge that we face, we have a decision. We can either choose to just, if we're going to respond and we're going to choose to get through it, that's great. Getting through it is better than not getting through it. But why not make the effort to grow through it? Why not make the effort to get better because of it? Not necessarily because of the event. When I didn't get better, I didn't grow from being in 2 plane crashes, losing my family tragically, and almost losing my own life in the second one. I didn't grow from that, of course, but I was determined to find a way to grow from how I was forced to respond and how I could learn from it. Because the challenges that I face in that, obviously, my hope is that, that's the last serious health challenge that I face, for the rest of my life, and from a severity of my injuries and stuff like that. But adversity is going to continue to come. And so why wouldn't we learn lessons from the challenges we face today that'll help us thrive in the midst of the challenge we'll undoubtedly face tomorrow? Hopefully this COVID pandemic is the last, global pandemic for a while. Hopefully we get to the other side. I think we're getting close to getting through it, but hopefully it's the last pandemic that comes around for a while. But there's lessons that we can learn from having to find a different way to win. We didn't expect to have to do things fully remotely, or at least obviously you all are still, doing most things in person. But there's challenges to all of us, the supply chain shortages we're dealing with, or, whatever the challenges may be. Finding a way to thrive in the midst of those, I think I think when things get back to normal, not if they get back to normal, when they get back to normal, we'll be better for it, because we've learned lessons that we couldn't have learned any other way than going through something challenging like this. So when you have the greater purpose, it'll drive us to have grit at all times, and it'll drive us to do what is necessary to overcome. So the first letter of grit, the G to me stands for the growth mindset. The growth mindset believes that every setback is an opportunity. Every failure is an opportunity. Even when we inevitably fall short of a goal, miss our marks for a quarter or a year, the growth mindset doesn't view that as a permanent condition. We can find a way to grow from it. We can find a way to get better from it. Coach Beeline at Michigan, I was a part of some really good teams at Michigan. We didn't lose that many games over my 4 years, but whenever we would lose, Coach would always come in the locker room and say, we're going to watch the film of the game and we're going to find a way to get from it. We're going to watch the film and we're going to find a way to get better from it. I think that's kind of a life idea. We're all going through challenges, and we're not recording. Like in basketball at Michigan, we recorded every game, every practice, so we could rewatch the tape and find ways to get better from it. But I think we can, metaphorically speaking, watch the film and review what happened, what we did well, what we can work on, so that we can find ways to get better from it. That whatever the challenges may be, maybe it's a challenging procedure that we go through, or maybe it's, a challenging week or quarter, or obviously the past year and a half has been challenging. We're not growing from COVID itself. Obviously, it's had a terrible impact on a lot of people's lives, but I think we can grow for us to respond. And I think it just makes sense. I think we can turn negatives into positives by shifting our perspective. I think we can turn negatives into positives by shifting our perspective. So what happened to me was negative in every sense of the word. The event that happened, both events that happened were negative, were tragic in every sense of the word. But by focusing how we responded to it, we were able to take positives from it. Not positives from the events, but positives from how the events force us to adapt and force us to respond. Because learning how to win in a different way is never a bad thing. At Michigan, Coach would always, the other teams we'd play, do things we didn't expect, would always do things we didn't expect. We would have to adapt on the fly and make adjustments. And we had some challenging games in the beginning of my senior year, but then by the end of my senior year, we went to the national championship game, because we had taken those games, those challenging games, and used those as learning opportunities. I think there's challenges that we're all facing in life and in our business that we're facing today that we can grow from, that can prepare us to go to the metaphorical national championship when the time comes, right? So I think just having that growth mindset at all times and finding a way to take a positive from whatever we experience, it just makes sense. It just makes sense. So the R in grit is the decision to be resilient. When we make the decision to be resilient, we focus on the things that we control: our attitude, our work ethic, our response to adversity. A lot of things we can't control in business. A lot of things we can't control in business. COVID-19 is terrible. We can't control. Nobody asked for it, but it is what it is, right? There's things in your business that I don't know, but there's a lot of difficulties I'm sure that come your way that we can't control. We don't ask for them, but they come their way. It's part of the business. It's part of life. The challenges are going to come our way. In the midst of them, we need to focus on how we respond. And what I also learned about making the decision to be resilient, you may not think that a kid coming out of a coma, a kid that couldn't walk, was in a leadership position. Maybe I wasn't. Maybe that's arrogant of me to say. But how could I expect other people in my life to overcome the challenges that they were facing if I wasn't willing to overcome my own, right? Everybody on the call today is facing a challenge. Everybody. Whether it's Rob or Bob or any of the other people, wherever you are in the organization, we're all facing challenges. And we don't realize, but there's people always paying attention. People are always paying attention. We can all lead by example every day of the week. It doesn't matter if you have people that report to you or wherever you rank in the organization. We can all lead. We can all lead by example, and it doesn't take any talent, seniority, or title to lead by example. If we make that decision to be resilient, decision to find a way to not just get through the challenges that we face, but if we all, on an individual level, if we all make the decision to find a way to grow through our challenges, that's going to add value to the team in ways that we don't even realize. How can that not encourage other people to make that same decision? If people see us making the decision to be resilient, seeing the decision to overcome, that's going to hopefully encourage them to do the same. So about it though, making the decision to be resilient is tough. It's a lot more difficult to be resilient than it is. It's easier to allow ourselves to be the product of our circumstances. But I'm reminded of the Cadet Prayer at West Point. And thank you to anybody on the call today who has served or whose family members who have served. There's two lines in the Cadet Prayer at West Point that I think apply to life in general, are really good things to live by, but especially apply to overcoming adversity. So the first line is help us, or excuse me, it's encourage us in our endeavor to live above the common level of life. Encourage us in our endeavor to live above the common level of life. It's not common to be resilient. It's more common to allow ourselves to be the product of things that happen to us. It's more common to allow ourselves to be the product of our circumstances. But I prayed that, man, help me choose this more difficult, choose this uncommon path. Help me, because it's going to take an uncommon response to get to Michigan after almost losing my life, right? Being in a coma. It's going to be tough, but help me choose to live that uncommon level of life. Encourage me in my endeavor to live above the common level of life. And the second line is, Lord, help us choose the harder right instead of the easier wrong. Help us choose the harder right instead of the easier wrong. Whatever you believe from a faith standpoint, that doesn't matter. Help us choose the harder right instead of the easier wrong. I'm not going to say that being resilient and overcoming adversity is necessarily right or wrong, but it's definitely harder, right? It's definitely harder to overcome challenges. It'd be a lot easier to allow all of us all just decided to, yeah, you know what? COVID is what it is. Challenges are what they are. The supply chain is what it is. Yeah, we're just going to throw in the towel and let things, let the adversity defeat us. That'd be a lot easier. But I know you are obviously choosing the harder right, or choosing the more difficult right to overcome it. And it's a harder road. But, I think if we just, again, whatever you believe from a faith standpoint, if we can just choose that harder right over the easier wrong consistently in all aspects of life, we're not going to win. There's no way we're not going to win eventually. Maybe we don't win by next week or next month, but by consistently choosing the harder right over the easier wrong every day, over the long term, there's no way we won't win. There's no way we won't. So the third letter of grit is I, of course, and I to me stands for integrity. Of course, we all know that integrity is about being honest and doing the right thing and no one is looking. Of course, that's true. Of course, that's true. But in addition, I believe integrity is about following through on our commitment, especially when there's a change in circumstance. Coach Beeline, from a scholarship, and I was pretty high level on June 15th, 2011. He thought a chance to help his teams win championships on the court by scoring and rebounding and playing defense, things like that. And I hope to have that career. When I committed, I looked forward to having a great career. The second plane accident happened 9 days later, tragically, and almost took my life. And when I came out of the coma, by the grace of God, I did. But basketball was never on the radar. I was just trying to be able to live life again, trying to be able to walk, trying to learn how to like talk again, eventually get back in school, eventually, be able to live life. But coach's follow through on his scholarship offer to me didn't waver, even though the circumstances drastically changed. And I think about that from an organizational, cultural perspective, right? If we can all do that, if we can all have our follow through on our commitments, no brainer. If everybody on the team knows when we make a commitment, there's no way, there's no doubt in our minds that in their minds that that can only help us if we all do that consistently. So if making a commitment is a common thing, a lot of people do it. I would argue every person in America, every day of some kind, whether to themselves or to somebody else, they tell someone they're going to do something. But there's not that same number of commitments made that there are commitments followed through on, especially when there's a change in circumstance. So if making a commitment is a common thing, a lot of people do it. But if following through on that commitment is uncommon, especially when there's a change in circumstance, I believe following through on our commitments when there's a change in circumstance is doing the common things in an uncommon way. It's doing the common things in an uncommon way. And the result of doing the common things in an uncommon way consistently is we're going to leave people and places better than we found them. What more can we ask of anybody than to leave people and places better than we found them? And you all are obviously doing that for a living. Thank you for the work you all do to help people like me overcome their health, their medical challenges, medical trauma, or even or whatever. Maybe it's a procedure that somebody chose to do. Whatever the challenges are. Thank you for the work that you all do to help people overcome the challenges. But following through on every commitment when there's a change in circumstance in all aspects of life, that's going to leave people in places better than we found them. So my dad, Bob and I, we were just talking on the beginning before the call here about my dad. He was one of the greatest men of all time, as far as I'm concerned, one of the greatest of all time. He was a doctor, treated pain management in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and actually used a lot of your devices. He did a lot of spinal cord stimulators and implantable devices like that. So it's a small world there, I guess. But he treated pain for a living and impacted a lot of lives that way. We'd see 50 or 60 patients a day. Busy guy. Usually skipped lunch, 7:30 to 5:30, straight through. Right? He was a busy guy and impacted a lot of lives that way. What I'm talking about are the little things that he did that nobody noticed. So we would go to McDonald's for breakfast on the way to school on Wednesdays and Fridays from 2005 to about 2010 before I could drive. I learned this from a family friend last summer. That the cashier from the McDonald's that we would go to, the McDonald's on DuPont Road in Fort Wayne, Indiana, the cashier there was a guy named Josiah. Josiah was always there Wednesdays and Fridays. And instead of just getting the food and driving away, my dad would take maybe 2, 3, or 4 seconds. Hey, thanks for all you do, Josiah. I really appreciate you, man. Look forward to seeing you next time. Make it a great day. Praying for you and your family. Just a very little thing, right? A very little thing. You could argue that made no impact on most people. It probably is not going to really make an impact. But what I learned from my family friend last summer, that cashier from McDonald's on DuPont Road, Josiah was at my parents' funeral after my dad passed away in 2000. My dad and the second mom passed away in 2011. And I think the reason Josiah went to go celebrate my dad's life after he was already gone is because my dad left him better than he found him by doing the common thing in an uncommon way. But going to McDonald's, getting your coffee, getting your breakfast sandwich, that's a very common thing. A lot of people do that. But extra effort to encourage somebody, to inspire somebody, to add value to somebody else's life by taking an extra 3 or 2 days a week. Say that the fact that Josiah has life after he already is an example of that, but I think it is because the reason I don't think Josiah went to go celebrate my dad's life to support from my dad. My dad was already gone, tragically. Josiah went there for him because he felt that he should honor my dad's life and celebrate him and honor the impact that he made, honor the type of man he was. And so I just conclude from that is if we can all do that, right? If we can all take that metaphorical 2, 3, or 4 seconds, 2 days a week, you to inspire someone, to encourage them, know the impact that it's going to make on somebody. And every day is an opportunity to inspire someone. Every day is an opportunity to empower someone. You may never know, just by going about our business the right way, living life in a way that is inspiring to people and encouraging. We all know those people in the world. You see them, you talk to them, for just 30 seconds, and you leave kind of fired up. You want to take on you want to crush the world. You want to crush every challenge. You're like, man, I'm going to get after it today. I'm going to get after it this week or whatever. But we also know those people who you leave, you have a conversation. They may have been going through something challenging or whatever, and you leave, you're a little bit in a bad mood. You're not feeling super good about the world. You're a little bit pessimistic maybe, right? And that may be the result of somebody that's going through something challenging. And I don't fault them for that. But let's be the people that fire people up by the interactions, by just speaking life into them, encouraging them, motivating them to be the best that they can be. So the last letter of grit is T. And T to me is the team first mentality. I think we should always think about the team first. We should train ourselves to think we before me. We should remember that every person on every team on the planet has a role, and that role is very important. Otherwise, that person probably wouldn't be on the team. So I know you all obviously in the operating room and things like that, that's the epitome of a team effort. So thank you again for being the great teammates that you are and helping people, get back to living life and getting their health back. But every person on every team on the planet has a role. So I know, Bob, I don't know if you actually knew this, going into today. I'm in the record books at Michigan. I'm in the record books. And I say this with all sincerity and all humility. My record at Michigan will never be broken as long as the program exists. I am the all-time lowest scoring full scholarship athlete in program history. I scored 1 point in 4 years. But hey, the team was a shag balls in practice, unload lugs on road trips, great teammate, and bring positive energy to the gym every day. Hey, that was my role. Trust me, I would have loved to play in the big games against Michigan State, Ohio State, Villanova, UCLA, Arizona, North Carolina. Would have been awesome. Would have loved it. Injuries that I suffered in the second plane accident took away a lot of my ability, so I wasn't able to play. But coach was gracious enough to put me in a game my freshman year, and I got fouled and was blessed to make a free throw. In fact, I unfortunately was 1 of 3 from the free throw line. I shot a 3-pointer. I was open. Okay, that's a great opportunity. I should have gone on the line and made 3 of 3. That would have been a cool story. Guy that gets hurt, can't score. But if I would have left Michigan as a 100% free throw shooter, that would have been great. But I left as a 33% foul shooter. So I'm one of the probably the all-time lowest scoring full scholarship athlete in program history. But hey, like I said, every person on every team has a role. And my role was to be the best that I could be. Coach John Wooden, maybe some of the basketball fans on the call remember Coach Wooden from UCLA. He said, success is peace of mind attained only from knowing you've made the effort to become the best which you were capable of becoming. I wasn't capable of being Karis LeVert or Duncan Robinson or Mo Wagner or G.J. Wilson. They're playing in the NBA now. Capable of that, but I was capable of being a great teammate, encouraging my teammates, helping with drills and practice, and being the best that I could be, working as hard as I could to be the best that I could be. And I felt that, maybe me bringing my best every day it's not really making that big of an impact. But if I'm negative, I can bring the whole team down by bringing negative energy to the gym every day, by sucking the life out of the gym, right? And I just felt that, man, if I can just be an example of just making the effort to be the best that I could be, and I was not very good. So out of the probably ran give or take 1,000 suicides over my 4 years at Michigan, I finished dead last by a wide margin every single time. But hey, I ran as hard as I could, and there's no harm that can be done by all of us bringing our best to be the best we can be every single day. I believe it was maybe it was President Reagan who said this. I think he said, a rising tide lifts all boats. Whatever you believe politically, a rising tide lifts all boats. There's no way it can. There's no harm. There's no way that all of us, that each of us bring our best to be the best that we can be every day. There's no way that can do anything but have a positive impact on the whole rest of the team. So I think we have that grit in the face at all times, but especially in the face of adversity, if we're driven by a greater purpose, for you all, obviously, to alleviate pain, restore, help people get back to living life on their terms. For me, honor my family in heaven and my faith and things like that. Now it's my wife, and that greater purpose can change too. It doesn't have to be a one purpose for the rest of our life. It can change. On my road to recovery, is my faith and my family in heaven and honoring them. I felt I owed it to them to make the best recovery possible. I felt it's how I could, because I'm the only hatch left from my immediate family, tragically. And what a great opportunity it is, though. Obviously, it's terrible what I lost. I have an opportunity to make my family proud every single day and make people, think highly of the Hatch family name. Now it's me and my wife, but what an honor that is. What an honor that is. So when we're driven by the greater purpose, it'll drive at all times. It'll drive the growth mindset. We'll find ways to grow from whatever we experience. The challenges are opportunities. The R is the decision to be resilient. Focus on the things that we control, our attitude, our work ethic, how we respond to adversity. And making that decision to be resilient will give us an incredible opportunity to by example. The I is integrity. And of course, you all know integrity is about being honest, doing things the right way, going about it the right way, not taking shortcuts. Of course, that's true. But in addition, I believe integrity is following through on our commitments, especially when there's a change in circumstance. Lastly, the T and grits, the team first mentality. I think we should always think about the team first. We should train ourselves to think we before me. We should remember that every person on every team on the planet has a role, and that role is very important. So I think we owe it to the team to make the effort to be the best we can be, whatever role we have. So thank you very much for the opportunity, Bob, and the rest of the team. I really appreciate it. Happy to take any questions. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Appreciate it.
Well, first of all, Austin, I will tell you that I know you're getting a standing ovation from everybody who's out there, all 142 participants that are there. Your story is incredible. You're an incredible human being. There's just no other way to say it. And I'm thrilled that I've gotten the chance to know you here over these last few months. I do want to say that if anybody has a question, I know Rachel had mentioned that you would need to unmute yourself. So if anybody has a question, please feel free to jump in. While we wait on that, Austin, I'll tell you that it's really neat. Just going to read a few of the things that people have said. It's going so fast, you're just incredible story of faith and inspiring example of grit. Thank you for sharing your story, Austin. Another person writes, thank you for sharing your story and messages with our Midwest team. I love your message of bringing our best version, whatever our best is. Someone else mentioned, thank you, Austin, inspiring. Another person, incredible story of perseverance and faith. Thank you. You're awesome, Austin. Thanks for sharing this with us. And, you brought up something, Austin, earlier about, being a part of our team. And I will tell you that from your words tonight, you will always be a part of our team. We'll have lots of things. I know it will be easy for everyone to, you had said, take one thing. I wrote a lot of different things out about this. So it's just, you're an incredible person.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Anybody, I'll just read a couple more. Thank you, Austin, from one person. Thank you, Austin. I love the definition of grit and look to implement that myself. You brought up so many things around grit and that mindset. I love the common, you talk about, it's not common to be resilient. So do common things. And we are faced with so many things each day that with this team probably feels like it's things that they do all the time and they're common, but they're very uncommon things. And they strive and they do it so well all the time. Another one I wrote down, choose the harder right than the easier wrong. I love that.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to live life, just in general, not only business, but life, right? Just choosing the harder right. It's harder to go about our business the right way. Having the integrity is harder.
Mhm.
It's harder to, right? But it's man, one of my coaches at Michigan always said, and this kind of applies to, working to overcome any challenge or working to achieve any goal. One of my coaches always said, the dreading is always worse than the doing.
Mhm.
It's uncommon to get them to go head first into a challenge and attack a situation, adversity, opposition, attack something head on, right?
Mhm.
But like, you just get started, we'll get through it, and obviously, obviously I know that there's some supply chain stuff going on, and there's so many other challenges you all face every day that I don't know, and I'm not going to act like I do. But if we just get started on that road to, like for me, on my road to recovery, I was in the hospital when Coach Beeline came to see me in Michigan. That was the end goal, but I couldn't walk. I just got to get the ball rolling. Got to start walking. Once I start walking, then I can eventually, jog, and eventually, and like, metaphorically speaking, get back to being able to live life. So like, I think just taking I'm sure you all have these big goals, right? We want to achieve whatever the goals are. But if we just knock off one thing at a time, just set mini goals every day. Try to like win today, win the day after that, and then win the next day, and then if you do that for a long enough time, we'll have won enough that we'll have achieved our goal, right?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, this team, talk about the growth mindset with the challenge that were put in front of them, especially this last quarter. They really grew through that, and it's been so fun to see the success that the team that you're speaking to has had even through this, and they've really had that growth mindset in this challenging time.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. And I think we don't ask for the challenges, but learn from them that'll help us in the midst of other challenges too. Because hey, we get through this challenge, we have a great quarter this year, and the things that we learn this quarter or this month or this week, whatever, will help us thrive in the midst of the challenges that we continue to face as well. And I think achieving goals kind of build on themselves, right? So I think as you all achieve, you grew and you got better through, this challenging quarter, this challenging year. I can only imagine what you have in the coming months or years. So,
Austin, there's a question that came in. Are you writing a book or doing a movie?
Yeah, the book is kind of in the process. It's been in the conversation for a year or so now.
Yep.
And I obviously with COVID, it kind of I focused more on building the speaking business, even in the midst of COVID, right? Even in the midst of the challenging times, that was still a great. I couldn't be in person with people, but I could build the business virtually, and I could speak. I spoke probably about 100 times virtually in the past year and a half, which has been a great blessing. And yeah, so I'm focused on building the speaking business. But the good thing about the book is that will kind of be a good complement to the speaking. And I don't think the movie will ever be a thing. A lot of people have asked that, and I don't know that that's what I want to do. There's that ESPN story that's out there, and that's kind of gives my my life story enough in a nutshell, or in a 16-minute feature. But yeah, the book is probably going to happen in the next year or two. But yeah, I think we're gonna wait on the movie, or probably not go that route. But yeah, we'll do the book for sure.
There was another question about what was the quote that you said about effort? I thought it was from one of the coaches. Was that a John Wooden quote around effort?
Well, yeah. Well, Coach.
Or was it Beeline?
No, it's Coach John Wooden. Coach John Wooden said, "Success is peace of mind, which comes only from knowing you made the effort to best of which you are capable of becoming." Right. So like, success is different for all of us. For me, like if you look at my career at Michigan, if you define success, some of my teammates scored 15 or 20 points a game, and they had successful careers, and now they're in the NBA. That's great. I wasn't capable of that though. So how could I measure myself with the same standard as them? So I didn't want to. And not that I really did measure myself, but every day I'm just going to be the best that I can be. I'm going to be the best teammate that I can be. I'm going to encourage my teammates. I'm going to lead by example. and try to bring my best every single day. Cause my best, their best was a lot better than mine.
Mhm.
There's no reason I can't bring my best every day. So
You would be so proud of this team, Austin, the way they've worked together. The stories I hear of, I mean, you don't know what they do every day, but what they do every day is incredible.
Mhm.
They're in surgeries with customers, instructing physicians, but then what they've had to do outside of that to try to make sure everybody has the inventory and the devices that they need to, for the next surgery, for us to be able to cover that case and that patient to get that. And these guys, it's incredible how I look at this team here, and I think of so many things you said tonight, and I think of grit. And I wish you knew all of them the way I know them, and the grit that they've shown through this challenging time.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Well, yeah, congrats to all of you and all your success. Congrats on thriving through these challenges, and congrats on growing through the challenges. You haven't just got through it, you've grown through it. And so I know I don't know any of you, but I got to know Bob pretty well. But thank you for all the work you do to impact families and impact people who are injured and have procedures and stuff like me. I know we didn't work together directly, obviously, but you're impacting lives the way my life was saved by physicians as well. So thank you.
Well, I'll just say this, and we'll close on this, is that you are inspiring and impacting this team right now by your talk tonight. So from every one of us in the Midwest at Medtronic, we just want to say thank you. God bless you. And when that book comes out, we'll bring you back.
No, for sure. Would love it. Would love it. Well, thank you all very much for the opportunity tonight. I really appreciate it. Have a great evening, and I'll look forward to staying in touch for sure. Thanks again.
Sounds great. Thanks again, Austin. Have a great night, everybody. Appreciate all of you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank
Take
you
care.
all.